Tonight, an end to war.
I really hope that we're going to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and that will be only the first phase of better relationship.
After 15 months of violence, Israel and Hamas reach a deal. Welcome news 6,000 miles away in Billings. Plus a graveyard for tired turbines.
The blades take up a lot of volume. They're a big volume item.
Wyoming aiming to lead the nation forward in the world of wind energy, burying old wind turbine blades in coal mines. And funding for a task force.
He should be here with us. He had a whole life ahead of him.
The MMIP crisis front and center at the legislature. The MTN News starts right now.
From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening and thanks for joining us on this Wednesday night. I'm Russ Riesinger. Tonight, a major breakthrough. After more than a year of war and many months of negotiations, Israel and Hamas have reached a deal to end the war in Gaza. The peace deal will be done in two phases, each lasting 42 days. In phase one, Hamas will release 33 hostages, including women, the elderly, and sick, with Israel setting free dozens of Palestinian detainees in exchange for each. Israel will also pull back to Gaza's perimeters, allowing humanitarian aid to start flowing in again. Phase two would see Hamas release the remaining hostages, alive and dead, with the focus shifting to rebuilding Gaza and who will govern it in the future. The brutal conflict, which was sparked by a Hamas-led invasion of southern Israel, left nearly 47,000 people dead. As our David J. finds out, the long-awaited news is welcome for many Billings residents with family in Israel, as they can finally rest a little easier tonight.
A Billings man who used to live in Israel and has relatives over there says he likes the Israel-Hamas peace agreement. He's seen other agreements in the past, though, that have not ended in peace, but he has more confidence this time.
My niece lives in Tel Aviv, North Tel Aviv. And actually, one of the missiles fell 2 blocks from her home. My brother was fortunate enough to be sort of in the middle of the country, not too close to Hamas and not too close to Hezbollah. But there were a few rockets that fell not far from where he lives. He lives near Nazareth in the lower Galilee.
Uri Barnea's relatives have experienced the Israeli-Hamas conflict.
This whole episode could have been prevented had Hamas not attacked Israel on October 7th.
Barnea was born and raised in Israel and served in the Israeli military before coming to the U.S. in 1971. While he likes this agreement, he has some skepticism because attempts at peace have failed for more than 100 years and recently.
So the first agreement was actually in November already of 2023, where about, I think, 100 or so hostages were freed. And there was ceasefire for a few weeks, but then the whole thing started again, and there was no agreement until now.
But he says now it's up to the Israeli parliament to approve and for both sides to abide by the agreement. The Palestinian side could be heard at a rally in Illinois.
So we owe it to our martyrs, we owe it to our Shuhada, and we promise you we will continue fighting until Gaza is rebuilt and until there's a freedom and justice for every single Palestinian.
I hope that this will give the incentive for the next phase where more hostages will be freed, more Palestinians will be freed from the prisons, and more help and aid would be given to reconstruct Gaza and to help the people in Gaza.
In Billings, David J., MTN News.
It's a crisis that has been impacting Montana for many years. Currently, there are 48 missing Indigenous people in Montana, but the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Peoples Task Force is on a mission to bring that number to zero. That mission is in need of funding, and the force is turning to the Montana legislature for help. Our Matt Carmack dives into the bill, hearing from one lame deer family filled with unimaginable heartache who is desperate to have it passed.
Here at Billings Senior High School, red shirts and dresses align the sidewalk. It's a fitting display, especially after a recent legislation push to open a special revenue account for the Montana MMIP Task Force.
He should be here with us.
Most of us can't imagine the pain of losing a loved one, but the Littlebird family has experienced it not once.
He had a whole life ahead of him,
but multiple times over the past few years.
Having the MMIP epidemic affect our families has really, it hit our family directly hard.
In the last 5 years, Lavana lost 2 nephews and a family friend due to suspicious and undetermined deaths. Losing her 19-year-old nephew in 2020 was especially difficult. Kaimani's body was found in a park near Lame Deer during the pandemic.
Kaimani was like my own son. You know, I was there when he was born, and I helped when he was just a baby up until he walked. I was there in every part of his life, birthdays, holidays.
The losses are why the Littlebird family supports newly proposed House Bill 83, one that would create a special revenue account for the Montana MMIP Task Force, which brings not only awareness to MMIP cases, but also resources.
Investigation resources. Because I remember in the beginning of Kaimani's case, I talked to one of the main investigators, and he said sometimes they don't investigate thoroughly.
The task force was created in 2019. It currently relies on state funding. Under the new legislation, a special revenue account would allow for external donations like grants.
I feel like it would give the opportunity for Montana residents to kind of show their support.
Charlene Sleeper heads a Billings MMIP grassroots organization.
But I do activism.
Similar to the MMIP task force, and has worked to reduce the number of missing Indigenous people in the state.
It's incredibly important that we do have a funding vein in order to support the work. Doing this type of work is extremely expensive.
This exterior funding could ultimately help families like the Littlebirds, and more resources become readily available for searches and rescues and investigation efforts.
And having that extra resources would help a lot. It would.
In Billings, Matt Carmack, MTN News.
A bill that would require transgender people to use the bathroom that aligns with their sex at birth has passed a key vote in the Montana House of Representatives. House Bill 121 passed its second reading 58-42 on a party line vote. It would require public schools, correctional facilities, other public buildings, and domestic violence shelters to designate bathrooms, changing rooms, and sleeping areas based on a person's biological sex at birth. Supporters say it's necessary to protect single-sex spaces for women and children, while opponents say the legislation is an invasion of privacy and discriminatory against transgender individuals. The bill now moves to a third reading in the House before going to the Senate.
We've been talking a lot all week about how cold it's going to get towards the weekend, but this is going to cover a large area of the country. Now, anywhere you see the blue, and especially the purple shaded regions, it shows that we're going to have colder than average temperatures. Stop the clock at about lunchtime on Friday. Notice all of Montana, Wyoming blanketed in the blue. That initial surge of cold air starts to arrive, and that's our best snow-making weather. But as we take it from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right on into Monday, notice that the country becomes blanketed. It's pretty much only Florida, areas of southern Arizona, parts of California, and Hawaii that don't look to have below average temperatures. We'll break down that and the rest of the forecast details in a few minutes.
Northwestern Energy is adding another tool to its arsenal to help in Montana's fight against wildfires: artificial intelligence smoke detection cameras. The 10 AI-driven cameras can detect smoke and alert emergency personnel, enabling quicker responses when it comes to battling wildfires. A human dispatcher will verify the detection before alerting fire officials and the energy company. Those cameras will be streamed online. A new bill in Wyoming is set to make a big difference in the world of wind energy. In the past, used blades from windmills didn't have a set way to be disposed of, meaning more than 70,000 across the country just sat useless on the ground. But the Cowboy State is looking to change that, coming up with a creative win-win scenario for their disposal. Our Charlie Kleps explains.
They're easy to spot.
Wyoming has its share of wind.
Massive windmills all across our region, they've become a critical energy resource. But these massive structures don't last forever.
The life expectancy on the majority of the blades is a 20 to 30 year lifespan.
When the fiberglass blades, typically over 170 feet long, wear out, there's really not anywhere to put them.
When we drafted the bill, there were 72,000 blades laying on the ground nationwide. We looked at where do we have space to put that kind of volume?
It's an issue Wyoming first pitched in 2020.
It occurred to us that the mines would be an option for that because of the size and scale of Wyoming's coal mines and the size of our pits.
Rather than just letting the blades take up landfill space, since fiberglass is very hard to recycle, the state pushed for putting them underground in old coal mine pits. Kyle Wintland with Fossil Fuel Development says it helps solve a few things, chief among them, money.
It creates a revenue stream when the mines hit their last pit or their final pit voids, and they're not mining and creating revenue off of coal anymore.
When the new rule goes into effect next month, mines will be able to charge for blade drop-off, meaning revenue is still coming in even though production is paused. 25% of those charges will go to the state.
It also adds some additional fill in those final pits to help fill them a little quicker.
It also helps coal mines find an economic purpose, key to reclamation laws. And when the day comes that these blades are recyclable, they'll be easy to find.
It was a really good kind of novel solution.
A solution that's ahead of its time. Wyoming is the first state to pass a bill allowing this, but could be an example for neighboring states like Montana.
The original bill passed both the House and the Senate with broad support, wide margins. So, we're really looking forward to moving this particular program forward now.
In Wyoming, Charlie Kleps, MTN News.
Montana's largest coal mine is pursuing a big expansion. The Spring Creek coal mining complex near Decker, Montana, in the far southeast corner of the state, hopes to increase its production by 19 million tons. That mine currently produces more than 12 million tons of coal, making it one of the 10 biggest coal mines in the country and employs about 265 people. The U.S. Interior Department would have to sign off on the expansion after examining the environmental impact statement. The 237-page document, which has taken years to put together, estimates that that mine, when expanded, would produce about 29 million tons of carbon dioxide. That's equivalent to 1.2 million gasoline-powered cars driven over 5 years.